Good morning, everybody. You're very welcome to this short webinar in relation to answering some of your questions with regards to the journey towards CFP and the postgraduate diploma in financial planning, and also the specialist designations that students can attain by individual modules within level 9 along the way towards CFP. My name is Brian Dunphy, and I'm a member of the LIA team here to support all students on their education journey and answer any questions you might have. The reason I am here to talk to you today and answer any questions is I am a graduate of the Postgraduate Diploma in Financial Planning and a CFP myself. So hopefully I can give you some insight into what, from a student's perspective, and answer some of the common concerns or questions people would pose to me when engaging with me throughout their decision to start their education journey. So what I hope to cover off this morning is an oversight in relation to the postgrad diploma in financial planning and also the specialist designations. But I won't spend too much time on going over the course itself, because I would think at this stage, a lot of you who are thinking about embarking on the journey of any of the level 9 courses, you would understand the content or the syllabus itself, but I will give you an overview of how it's structured. With regards to the postgraduate diploma in financial planning, it is made up of 6 modules, and those modules are delivered by online lectures. It is part of a level 9 course on the National Framework of Qualifications, and the online lectures are delivered in the evening, and they are typically from 6 to 8:30 on a specified evening over 12 weeks, and the course is assessed by a continuous assessment and end of module exam. And having embarked on this program myself, it is phenomenal with regards to the level of knowledge that you will attain, building on what you already know from your current qualifications and your current roles within the industry. And it is ideal for anyone who wants to specialize in financial planning and enhance their technical knowledge in specific areas. What I will say before I go on is I would welcome anybody asking any questions, and I will try and address the questions as we go along. Hopefully, when you see later on the content that I hope to cover off, I hope to answer a lot of the questions that you might be thinking of, but feel free to ask any questions at all along the way. There's no such thing as a silly question, because if you're thinking about it, I've also thought about it in the past. So with regards to the overview of the 6 modules within the postgraduate diploma, this is actually how the semesters are broken down. In the semester September to December, if somebody was to embark on their journey starting out on the 6 modules, modules 1 and 2 are principles and practices of financial planning and risk management and insurance planning. Now, here along the way, you will see that you will attain designations in addition to hopefully the overall qualification at the end, but those designations come along the way as you complete these modules. So for example, when you complete the risk management and insurance planning module, you attain the FPRA designation, which stands for Financial Planning Risk Advisor. In semester 2, which is from February to May, the next 2 modules in the sequence of the 6 is tax and estate planning and investment management. And when a student completes the investment management module, they attain the SIA designation, which stands for Specialist Investment Advisor. Also in this semester, the retirement planning module is available for any students who wish to undertake that. And you'll see when I show you the 3 semesters leading to the 6 modules, why the modules are available at different times throughout the year. But when you complete the retirement planning module, you attain the RPA designation, which stands for Retirement Planning Advisor. And then to complete the journey towards the postgrad fully completed, the last semester is retirement planning and integrated personal financial planning. Now, what you will see is there are 2 semesters that are September to December. So if a student was thinking of starting their journey out over to complete the journey by doing 2 modules per semester, that full course can be completed within 18 months. And you'll see it runs from September to December, February to May, and then September to December again. Do you have to actually complete the modules in the order as specified there on screen? The answer is no. And what I will do is I'll explain a little bit more about how the course can meet your own specific needs as I answer some of the common concerns that people might have. So ideally, if you're starting the journey and you intend to do 2 modules at a time, you can see it's mapped out in the order of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But it is not essential that you actually have to follow that order, and it's not essential that you have to do 2 modules at a time either, because everybody's circumstances are different. And also, unfortunately, none of us have a crystal ball, and life has a habit of throwing up some curveballs. And the course is designed to be able to allow you adjust to meet with your own circumstances. And if that means you have to pause or change your structure with regards to whether you started out doing 2 modules and then need to change to 1, it's there to be able to meet with that flexibility. And I personally availed of that, and I'll explain later on as to why your circumstances unexpectedly can change, and that's why you need to be able to look at how do I still stay on this journey but while meeting all my other commitments. So with regards to this semester coming ahead, September to December, the 3 modules that are available are Principles and Practices of Financial Planning, Risk Management and Insurance Planning, and Retirement Planning. If somebody is starting out on their journey of doing 2 modules at a time, with an aim to complete the full syllabus over the 6 modules over 18 months, modules 1 and 2, Principles and Practices of Financial Planning and Risk Management and Insurance Planning, are the ideal starting points. Now, what's contained in those modules, you will certainly get a good insight into where the journey is going to go from the first module, Principles and Practices of Financial Planning. It gives you a real appreciation for the financial planning process, and also introduces you to the concept of time, value of money, and financial maths. What I would say is it really introduces it to you and gets you thinking about where things are going to go over the 6 modules. And it's nothing to be afraid of when you start to introduce new concepts, because that's the whole idea of undertaking a course like this. It is to start introducing something that you haven't seen before and to build on your existing knowledge. You'll get a real appreciation for behavioral aspects of financial planning applicable to client management and engagement in the financial planning process in this module. In the risk management and insurance planning, you really get a real appreciation for being able to compile and appraise the risks that are faced by your clients, but also ourselves, when it comes to mitigating risks that can face us in our financial plan and also our personal lives. So you really get a real appreciation for how to appraise them, and then how do we mitigate them when it comes to the financial plan. And you'll be able to formulate a plan to prioritize a client's risk management needs. You'll also get into evaluating the appropriateness of which insurance products are the right solution for a consumer, and then also touch on evaluating and understanding business accounts from a corporate point of view. And the third module that's available this semester is the retirement planning module. And the retirement planning module really will give you the technical knowledge in the retirement planning space that we're all looking to achieve, and move to an advanced level of understanding around the appropriateness and comparing different products and pension solutions for different stages along the retirement plan. And you'll be able to use projections and determine clients' retirement income shortfall, and compare the different methodologies with regards to extracting the wealth from your retirement plan. And also when it comes to making the appropriate recommendation to a client within the retirement planning solution, you will evolve and evaluate. You'll really move to an advanced level of technical knowledge here. So that module is available in September to December, primarily because a lot of us might consider to start our journey there, and might also not aspire at this moment in time to perhaps think about doing 6 modules within a postgraduate diploma. And the retirement planning module does also give you the retirement planning advisor designation. So it is a very good module to perhaps consider, is this where I want to go with my education journey? from where I currently am to enhance my technical knowledge. And it will give you a good understanding with regards to how each of the modules are delivered and what the commitment involved is required from me. So when you're looking at potentially September and the modules that are available, sorry, you can see there that the modules are delivered on a specific evening of the week. And what your commitment is to study for 12 weeks and attend 12 individual lectures online. And they would be from 6 to 8:30 in the evening. Now, what is very important to understand about these modules and the course is the way in which you will, first of all, achieve the success needed to pass and qualify and attain your qualification is to understand the assessment process. And the courses are designed to match with our demanding lives and the fact that we are being pulled left, right, and center. And in particular, it's probably obvious that this last 2 weeks or in the next few weeks in August, we're all very much focused on back to school and the demands and the pressures with regards to getting ready for that, not only for our families, but also for ourselves. We're now considering to do further education. So there's a lot going on, and the course is designed to make sure that we can balance your work-life commitments and unexpected curveballs. So the assessment process is made up of continuous assessment and end of module exam. And this is where it's really important to map out your 12-week journey. And if you look at, for example, the principles and practices module, the continuous assessment elements appear in weeks 4 and 8. Now, that is ideal when you're looking at a 12-week structure. And for me, my methodology of managing a 12-week commitment was to break it down and compartmentalize it, to really focus on different stages throughout the 12 weeks that I need to work towards. And when you have an assessment after 4 weeks in lecture 4, I personally focused on that exam can only be on the content that I've studied from weeks 1 to 3. And mentally, that gave me a bit of confidence and allowed me to believe that I can actually do okay in this. So I focused on those timelines, and I really focused on working towards them and then recharging the batteries and going again for the second mark along the journey. So each of those continuous assessments are worth 25% of your overall mark, and the final exam is worth 50. And your ultimate goal to pass the module is to achieve 40% out of those 3 assessments. Now, what that means is you don't need to get 40% in each of them. You need to get a combination of 40% from the marks available. So for me, what I focused on is trying to achieve as many marks from those 2 25% in-class exams to give myself the comfort and knowledge of knowing where I am and what I need to achieve in the final exam. And it's a very good comfort for students to know in advance of going into that final exam exactly where they're at and what they need to achieve. And the structure of the course is to allow you to do that. You will know the results from your continuous assessments before you go into your final exams. So on screen there, I've just illustrated the 3 modules that are available over semester September to December, and the timelines that you should focus on. And you'll see it's very much focused on making sure that the course is fully completed by December and before Christmas. That allows you to focus on getting a break, both from your academic studies and then hopefully from your work commitments, and then recharging the batteries and then going again in the new year for your other goals. So from my point of view, I've studied the course, and to share with you an insight into some of the common concerns that you might be thinking of and that I certainly would have had in my head before I committed to signing up to study such a course and a journey. What I will say to you is, and I'm going to give you my own personal insights here, and I'll share with you my own unique journey. Mine is quite a unique one from a point of view of potentially whatever fears and concerns you might have along the way that might happen. They certainly happened to me. and I overcame them. And what I'm trying to do is give you an insight into how we can potentially overcome any fears or concerns that we might have, and how you put in perspective what you're trying to achieve, and ultimately the long-term goal and the benefit of sticking with the journey that will stand to you in the long term. Certainly from my perspective on the course itself and the content, I know we all have a draw for what we do, and we really enjoy the aspects of the parts of the industry that we work in. And for me, financial planning is something I love, and I love seeing it being done properly and correctly, and getting the benefit of seeing the consumer understanding the journey that they're on, and when something happens that we were working towards, realizing that this was actually what it was all about. And the course, and in fairness, each of the modules for me reignited, but also added more fuel to that fire in relation to my hunger with regards to financial planning. And I would absolutely categorically guarantee that it will do that for each of you. It will certainly give you an addition to the passion that you have for what you do, and you will only come out of it with new skills, new knowledge, and a new hunger. So when it comes to the common concerns, here are some of them, and I'll work my way through them. So the first one is work-life commitments, right? So it's you know, we're all working in the industry, we all have jobs to do, and that's our primary focus, because that's what pays the bills, and that's what I need to meet with my expectations, my objectives. I need to ensure that my performance doesn't drop while I start to commit to doing something else outside of work. For me, when I signed up to do the postgraduate diploma, I was undertaking 2 full-time roles in a financial institution. And it may sound crazy, but I decided to do additional studies outside of that. And one of the big concerns is, will I be able to do not only my primary role, but the second role, and then stay on top of the studies? What I learned very quickly is it became imperative for me to be organized and focus on the structure of the course, and look at the 12 weeks and break it down and understand where are the milestones for me with regards to when I need to make sure that I have no other distractions or commitments at those specific times. And in particular, what I was focusing on was assessments, in order to maximize my success and bag as many marks as possible along the way over the 12 weeks, to give myself a little bit of comfort towards the end of the journey, towards the final exam. So yes, you need to look at, you know, your structure in regards to your work, your other commitments, and when we touch on other commitments, the real ones that come into mind here are, we've got family, we've got other people who are reliant on us. Again, in my journey, what I had to focus on is, where am I allocating my time at the moment to the people that need me? And I have 3 young children, and when I started my program, they were age 8, 7, and 5. I had 2 elderly parents who ended up over the 2 years that I was studying the program in nursing homes and subsequently dying. And your time is precious when you know you're getting to a point where you need to spend more time with those that need your help and also want to spend time with you. And that really puts this in perspective, that you just need to understand that it is part of a commitment of your time, but something that you want to stay on track for, and it is manageable. Looking at the impact on your job, will you be able to balance it with your job? Well, our job is important, but it also is something that we do for only part of the day. And that's something I learned. Outside of my job, I do an awful lot. And I realized I can actually do a hell of a lot outside of my 9 to 5 that I don't realize I'm doing. So I became consciously aware of the amount of time that I had available to me to perhaps drive somewhere, to perhaps commit to being part of a sporting organization, or to be able to just spend some time with family. And it's amazing when you analyze it, you realize that there are some parts of the day that you actually realize I'm doing things in my sleep here, and I have the ability to do it. And it's when you map that out that you'll realize it won't have an impact on my day-to-day commitment in my job. The next thing that I had to consider was, will I be able for it? And the big fear here is you look at it as a level 9 course, and all I've ever studied maybe previously in the past is something at level 7 to level 8. And the fear is this is a massive jump up. What I had to sit back and look at is the subjects that I'm actually studying are very relevant to what I do in my professional life. So while it is going to be new syllabus to me, it should also still be familiar in the environment that I'm working in. And once I got that comfort and realization, very early into the course, I realized, you know, I can see the level of knowledge and content here, but I understand what this is about. So it's not as if I had decided to do a course in a language that I never understood and had never spoken before. So starting from a standing position, I was actually coming into this in a situation where I'm able to walk or potentially jog, and I'm striving towards being able to run. And that really gave me a bit of comfort that I am able for this, because it's on subjects that are relevant to what I do. I also hadn't studied for a while. So again, some of us might be sitting here going, I haven't opened a book for 5, 10. For me, it was 15 years. So I worked in a financial institution and progressed my career through experience, but actually academically, I hadn't sat down and attained any qualifications outside of QFA. And that in itself can be daunting. But what I got a lot of comfort from was speaking to those that had been in the same situation as I had, and also looking at others who were going to be on the journey with me. And in the course, what you'll find is you create a new network and a new collaboration with your classmates. And there will be people in the class, the virtual classroom, whom you recognize and who'll reach out to you, because you mightn't have spoken to them, but you'll have bumped it for a long time, but you know each other through the industry. And it's great comfort to know that you're not on this journey alone. You're actually on the journey as a collective. And over the modules throughout time, you'll find there's a little bit more collaboration in some of the modules, and you'll then have an appreciation for everybody's in the same boat here. I looked at as well the course as a big commitment, and I thought, geez, it's 6 modules and it's 18 months of my life if I stick to the 2 modules at a time. What I learned very quickly is it's a big commitment, but a small part of a bigger plan. And the bigger plan being my next 10, 15, 20 years. And for me, it really hit home at one point that during a couple of the modules, not only along with the other commitments that I had of managing a couple of departments and teams in a financial institution, and then your family commitments of parents in nursing homes, and then you're allocating your time that you want to spend with your kids. But my wife also got diagnosed with cancer right in the middle of me studying a couple of these modules. And this is where the flexibility of the course came into play. I had in my head a journey mapped out over 18 months, but life doesn't play out exactly as you want it to. And sometimes you need to take a step back and go, okay, I know where I want to achieve. I know that I want to continue this journey, but I also need to balance it with some other circumstances now. And I looked at the structure of the course. And while I didn't stop, I dropped from 2 to 1 module temporarily for 1 semester, and then picked up the baton again when my time became a little bit freer. But what I also got from that experience is the value of what I was learning and the approach that I was taking to undertaking the course. I realized that there are worse things that can happen other than me studying and being afraid of failure and trying to achieve exam success. But it gave me an additional drive because I became very structured, very organized, and I became, it might sound a little bit selfish, but I was able to actually dedicate a small part of my week to me for a little bit of time. And I was able to look at the emphasis on why am I doing this? And in particular, when I watched somebody go through the treatment involved for cancer and thankfully come out the other side, and we're now looking back going, that was only part of a bigger journey. And it was actually a very small part of everything else that goes on in our life, but a very, very important part. Because what I also realized is I was working towards our future, and why I was studying this syllabus was to make sure that what the QFA gave me 20 years ago, I now still have opportunities in the future for us and for my career. And I certainly look back on it going, that was one of the best things that we did, and we worked on it together. And I also got a great appreciation for determination, because when you watch somebody go through a treatment and beat an illness, it's amazing how resourceful they are. And suddenly you look at what you're trying to achieve and compare it, and you're saying, I can do the same approach, but I also have far more resources to achieve what I want to achieve here. I have lecturers who are helping me along the way. I have syllabus that can help me achieve the success. And I also have myself. I have my own knowledge. I'm working in this industry. I can do this. And it's very, very manageable. And then ultimately, I looked at, what is this going to do for me long term? Well, along the way, I was adding designations. I was suddenly becoming an SIA. I was somebody becoming FPRA. I added RPA to my credibility. And suddenly, professionally, people were sitting up and realizing, I've enhanced my knowledge. I've built up a lot of respectability here, and I'm working towards becoming a CFP professional. And I'm standing out amongst my peers because I've personally taken on this commitment, and I'm also demonstrating in my professional capacity the new knowledge that I have. I'm bringing back what I learned in the course into my job. I'm not just saying I've got qualifications and letters, I'm actually putting it into practice. And I can assure every one of you who are thinking about any of the specific modules, you don't need to wait till the end of the course to be able to add the value that you'll get from the program into your professional life. So here's how I addressed those common concerns. I focused on ensuring I had a good operating rhythm. Now, what does that mean? Is I learned very quickly I can't listen and read at the one time. So I needed to be prepared for those 2.5 hour lectures. And I focused on how can I be best prepared. And what I needed to do was read some of the material that was going to be covered on the given night. So the lectures were scheduled on a specific evening, and the material and the lecture slides were always available in advance. So what I used to do is download the notes, read the material, and at least I was prepared for what was being covered on that given evening. It doesn't necessarily mean that I understood everything, but I had read it previously. So when we were going through it with the lecturer, I knew exactly what this topic related to. I also started using the resources that are available through LIA for this specific course very tactically, and the recordings became really a new, let's say, note-taking environment for me. What I did in the past, maybe 15, 20 years ago, is I would always write notes down, and what you're doing is repeating what's already there in the syllabus, what's already there in the lecture slides. And what I would focus on is I would listen to the lectures and write down the specific times in the lecture where there was content that was clearly very important and perhaps needed me to give it a little bit more attention. And I was able to go back on the recording specifically to that part of the lecture. And that became imperative for my exam prep, because when I came to revision, I had just a list of lectures with specific times that I knew there's the material that I want to go over again. And you know, when I started to think about how can I study differently, I realized recordings can be played anywhere, and I was able to use my smartphone and play back lecture recordings while I was out walking the dog, getting some air, or even in the car, being able to play them through the radio. And suddenly, while you're doing something, a different activity, you're also studying, and you don't realize it, but you're unconsciously doing it because you're doing another task, but in the background, your lectures are playing. I also then really focused on the continuous assessment and went after as many marks in those in-class exams as possible. And I tried to bag as close as I could to get to the pass mark. And I'm no academic genius. I'm not the brain of Ireland, but I really focused on, if there's an exam in week 4 or 5, it can only be on the material up to that point. And I knew if I got into a good operating rhythm of read the lecture slides, attend the lecture, and then my other approach was, after the lectures, I realized on that given night, I'm not doing anything else tonight, so I may as well just have a coffee, take a break, and go and do the homework, because it saved me time later in the week having to try and find additional time to do that work in advance of the next lecture. So my rhythm was find some time during the week to prepare for the lecture, attend the lecture, and then take a break and do the additional work on that same evening. It saved me having to go back over the material later in the week in order to do the homework. So I got into that rhythm of realizing my lecture night is my school night. And as long as I have the supports in place to allow me to be at school without any driving or travel commitments, I can actually do it. I also leaned very much on the lecturers, and I found them incredible from a point of view of, these guys are actually working in the industry. They know what it's all about. They know why we're learning this syllabus. And also they are approachable. They're very much there for me if I needed to ask a question. And I think if you ask any of your lecturers in the future, do they know me? They certainly got to know me because I wasn't afraid of asking the questions. And sometimes you'd be fearful of asking a question. There's no silly question in this course. And the support from the LIA education team, again, I would lean upon to ensure that if there's any area of concern, I made them aware of it. And suddenly things became easier. And ultimately then, what else did I look at here is, what will this do for me? Well, credibility and sustainability, absolutely. But what I was future-proofing my family. I was future-proofing ourselves with regards to our employment, with regards to my plan for the long term, and factoring in that life events come at you. And suddenly, you know, we have to deal with them, and put in perspective that there is a bit more focus on what I'm trying to achieve here, because potentially there's more of a focus on me now going forward. And that's what it did for me. So for those of you thinking about starting your journey, I can only tell you it's something you'll never look back on and regret. It certainly is the right thing to do. And for me, the bumps in the road just added to the journey, because it really gave me a great appreciation for what I'm learning. I always remember that I started out thinking about, I'll do one module at a time. I'll focus on that and see what that gives me. But I always remember that there's an interlink between all the modules. And I think of this from a retirement planning point of view. In the retirement planning, I learn everything about the technicalities of retirement planning. I know about pre and post retirement. But now when I look back and think about, if I'm sitting in front of a client for post-retirement options, and I'm thinking ARF annuity, I'm also thinking about what I learned in the investment management. I also need to think about, well, I still need these funds to grow for the client to the best of their objectives, meeting with their needs. So what I learned in investment management gives me the skills to add into the retirement plan. And then I also think of the taxation and the implications on, okay, I need to take that knowledge on board here when we're designing a solution. And finally, I look at the risk management and insurance planning and what I learned about life expectations and mortality rates, and also what's the optimum solution. Perhaps it could be a blend of a fixed income plus keeping a reserve. And I marry that all together and I can provide the best retirement planning solution. But I couldn't have done it without learning the technical knowledge for the retirement planning knowledge, and that module in particular. So they all add value individually, but they marry together to make you a rounded financial planner. So your next steps ultimately is for September, you need to take that brave move and decide I'm going to start my journey, whether that's 2 modules or 1 module at a time. The program is designed to work with you, but the enrollment closes on the 25th of August, which is 9 days time. Now, enrollment is done online, so there's an online application process on our website, www.lia.ie. But after this webinar, you'll each get an email from me with a copy of this presentation and also a link to the enrollment. The enrollment takes a couple of days, so there's a bit of information that you need to populate on your application. First of all, that you meet the criteria to do this course, which is either that you have the QFA or a degree with a business element associated to it, and you need to have 3 years experience in financial services. But on the application process, it's important that you document all that. So that's why enrollment takes a couple of days, is that our enrollment team need to make sure all the information is captured and correct, and then we can process your application. Just to help you make that decision, if somebody thinks about it, I do want to start this, but is it the right time? There's never going to be a right time in our heads when we think about it, because I don't know if deep down you'll always volunteer to do something that is a commitment outside of our day-to-day lives. But if you think about the next semester, that's in February, and that's 5 months later. And what you're effectively doing is, if you have the opportunity to start now, but don't, you're postponing the start of a journey that we know we're going to go on. And that postponement is another 5 months. So think about, I want to start the journey. I know it's a short journey over a longer period, a longer big plan. For those of you thinking about, I like the content, I like the modules within this program, there is a postgraduate certificate in financial planning that is an option for those that never want to aspire to be a CFP and go all the way to attain the 6 modules within the program. And the postgraduate certificate is actually made up of 3 of the modules of the 6. And they are principles and practices of financial planning, retirement planning, and investment management. Now, the benefit of this is that you get a level 9 qualification and you complete the modules exactly as all the other students studying the postgraduate diploma by attending online lectures on the specific evening for the modules. And they're from 6 to 8:30, and they're exactly the same assessment. It's continuous assessment and end of module. But on this program, while you're not aspiring to complete 6 modules, by completing 3, you're also getting the addition of 2 more designations. And they are the retirement planning advisor designation and the specialist investment advisor. So you complete 3 modules, you get 2 designations, and you get a postgraduate certificate. How you can complete that is, potentially you could decide to do it over 2 terms, and you could do principles and practices of financial planning and retirement planning in 1 term, which will be September to January, and then complete investment management in the February to May. And that would be a very short commitment to attain a level 9 qualification and 2 new designations. The alternative is you could potentially do 1 module now and then 2 in the 2nd semester. So it's either semester will be 2 modules and then 1, or 1 and then 2. And then the third option to complete this one is to literally to approach it that I'll do 1 module per semester. So over 3 timeframes, I'll do an individual module as illustrated on screen there. So you could potentially do principles and practices of financial planning, investment management, and then retirement planning, and achieve a level 9 qualification. So I do an awful lot of talking. So what I'll do now is focus on, are there any questions? And I see there are a couple of questions. And for those of you who haven't asked any questions at the moment, please populate some of them into the Q&A box there. But there's a question here, is I already have the RPA exam done. Can I skip that part and go straight to CFP? If you already have the RPA designation, but you achieved it through the level 7 program for the RPA designation, you unfortunately still need to complete the retirement planning module as part of your postgraduate diploma in financial planning. However, it is acknowledged that you already hold the RPA, so that one specific module is at a discounted price of 50% of the normal fee for the module. But that is the only thing that you can actually do with regards to having the RPA already. You still need to complete the retirement planning module. Now, why is there are additional syllabus, and it is very practitioner focused. So the retirement planning module, well, you might think, well, I've already learned this. You'll actually get a lot of benefit from it as part of the overall 6 modules, because it is interlinked with regards to what you're trying to achieve from the overall program. Hopefully that answers your question. And the next question is, any tips on how to approach the course with a busy lifestyle? Absolutely. The best advice I would give you is, when you're looking at your commitment weekly, is be prepared. It may sound silly, but it is imperative to actually look at the fact that the material for the lecture is going to be given to you in advance. And what you should do is try and find an hour of your week in advance of your lecture to read the material that's going to be covered on that given night. That will save you an awful lot of time in the long run, I can assure you, because it will save you having to go over material that you're looking at for the first time if you haven't read it prior to the lecture. So when you're attending the lecture, what you're doing then is listening rather than reading and listening. And that to me is the key to success. And then my personal approach is, because my circumstances allowed me, is I focused on, if I'm finished college now at 8:30, I don't have to drive home, I don't have to go anywhere. If I take a break, can I afford to go back and do another hour tonight of embedding what I learned into the additional work that I was given for the week? And if I get into that cycle, what I'm doing is I'm doing an hour's preparation, I'm doing 2.5 hours at a lecture, and I'm doing an hour of additional work. So all in that cycle, I'm doing 4.5 hours week on week. And that was the key for me staying on top of the material. Obviously, when exams came up, I gave a bit more time for revision to focus on the exam, but you have resources available to you to help you prepare for exams, such as sample exam papers. So the material that you're embedding week on week through your operating rhythm suddenly comes to the fruition that you realize, I'm well able to answer these questions. I just need to understand the type of question that's going to be asked of me. And that's how I approached it. So hopefully, Joan, that answers that question with regards to approach and tips with regards to balancing a busy lifestyle. And believe me, it couldn't have been busier for me. I was, as I said, very busy work-wise, but I had an awful lot of other commitments, visiting nursing homes, and then also supporting family going through a very serious illness, and then spending time with your kids. But it is manageable. It's, when you look at it in the total week, it's a very small commitment, but it's a commitment. And the one thing you shouldn't fall into the trap of is thinking that I'll catch up on that 4-hour commitment week on week. You need to be disciplined, and you need to say, it's a small part of my week, but I'm going to dedicate it, and I'm going to be a little bit selfish that is my time, because you're doing it for the reasons that you want to achieve success. You want to have the credibility, the sustainability. You want to achieve these milestones and designations and qualifications, because they will stand to you in the future. Another question coming in is, I have the QFA, RPA, and SA designation. How would you advise I should proceed? If you want to link in with me separately, I can guide you through the remainder of your journey there. So you already have RPA. However, you may still need to do the retirement planning. I'll need to understand if you've done the RPA as part of the retirement planning module, or if you did it historically through our level 7 program. So if you can link in with me directly, Tommy, I'll be able to guide you on that one. And I'll show you my contact details on the next slide. So for those of you who would like to discuss your own circumstances with me individually, you'll see my email address, my phone number, and you'll also be able to get in touch with me through the LIA website. But feel free to reach out to me today, and I will get some time to talk to you and answer your questions specifically. Paul, you've said you don't have time for the CFP this year, but you can manage the SIA. Will you get credit towards the CFP? Absolutely. Something that you should realize is that the ideal scenario is you will do modules each semester over a specific time period, but by completing one module of the 6, that module is effectively banked and that's completed. So if you decide to do individual modules that are relevant to you at the moment and you feel you have an interest in them, if in the future you decide, I wouldn't mind continuing my journey to complete the postgraduate diploma, you already have those modules completed. What I would say is if you do leave a big gap between continuing the other modules, you might find you need to revise some of the material of the modules you've already completed because something might have changed. For example, in the retirement planning world, I think in this year alone, a lot has changed. So if you had studied that a few years ago, you might find in order to complete the other modules, you might need to brush up on the knowledge in that module again a little bit, just to bring you up to date. But in fairness, our CPD requirements also make sure that you are up to date on big important changes. So hopefully that answers that question, Paul. And Kira, you've asked, when is the next course running? The course, does it only start in September? No, not necessarily. There are modules available in September and then February. So you can start at any point when the modules are available. So you could decide, I'm going to start my journey towards completing the 6. What you need to be cognizant of is when you're starting in February, you need to map out the journey of completing the 6, bearing in mind that not all modules are available each semester. And you can't complete module 6 until you are finishing the remaining modules or you have completed all the other ones. So you could be studying module 6 alongside your last one, but you can't do module 6 before you've done all the other modules. Hopefully that answers your question, Kira. So I don't think there are any more questions. Anybody else wants to pop a question into the Q&A? You can let me know if you're happy that I've answered those questions sufficiently. And any other comments on your thoughts, anything else you would like to know? I certainly look back at it and go, it was probably one of the best decisions I made with regards to starting my journey towards CFP. And I started at a time when perhaps I wasn't fully exposed to financial planning in my career, but it was the one area I absolutely loved and had a good history in. And personally, I am very interested in financial planning. In fact, the fact that myself and my wife had our own financial plan stood to us when unexpectedly life events come at you that you never thought would land on your doorstep. So everything that I learned in my career, my history, through my academic qualifications, it stood to me that I actually put them into practice, and we're able to still now sit back and focus on the journey still continues and nothing changed. And even the financial plan didn't get impacted too badly because you had the resources and protections in place to make sure that everything we talk to clients and about and the level of technical knowledge that we learned actually is correct and you applied it. So I certainly believe in this program. I think you'll enjoy it. It's opened up new networks, new connections. You know, throughout the modules that you will study, you will certainly make great connections with people from various different parts of the industry, and you'll find we're all interested in working together. It's not a fiercely competitive environment. It's actually an environment where you'll realize we're all out with the one goal, and we want to provide good quality financial planning and solutions and enhance our knowledge. And towards CFP qualification, it opens up new networks to you with regards to the CFP world and thereafter. So I'll never look back thinking that was 2 years of my life that I'd like back. It's not even 2 years of my life. It was 4 hours a week of 2 years that, if I was asked again, would I do it in a heartbeat? Absolutely. So look, thank you very much for your time. I hope you found this very beneficial. I am available to anybody who wants to link in with me directly for any questions in advance of enrollment closing. You know, if anybody is thinking about enrolling and has difficulty with that deadline of the 25th of August, please reach out to me now. We want to make sure that as many people can secure a place in the virtual classroom. But we have quite a number of applications, and we want to make sure that everybody gets the benefit of the starting the course at the time that they want to. So look, thanks again for your time, and hopefully I shall see you all and talk to you all again throughout your journey towards academic success. Thanks a million.